Playing in the high register, harpsichord. Ornamented melody, we mentioned ornamentation played by the recorder, so it wasn't even a flute, it was a recorder. Did it matter? Not really. It's like a slight oversight, we were still fairly close, so that's fine. Balanced phrases again, accompaniment strings, blah 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 blah. Wide range is something could have had. Pizzicato, we mentioned the plucked as well. The fact that we've got plucked strings next to a harpsichord is also something that creates unity. So I've got ornamented melodies, all those sorts of things, and then they go on and pretty much discuss where melody 1 and melody 2 happen, which we actually do clearer than what the answers actually do. So that's all they've given us, and we've gone so much further than those answers. So they're sort of some valid points that you can bring up, but we've gone and talked about how all of these things go on to create unity and contrast, which is expected for a band 6. So when a marker's looking at this, straight away they're going, well, they nailed all the major points. So this is what I'm talking about when I say stick to the big points first, then go into the smaller points. Okay, so you should know that this marking criteria we have in front of us isn't exactly what the examiners have. Theirs are specifically catered to the question. But basically, they're always looking for these 4 elements no matter what. So if you always keep these things in mind, you'll be fine. So we look at the structure of our response. Did we answer the question? Did we talk about unity and contrast? Yes, we did. We stuck to the point the whole time. We didn't go off on a tangent at all. We clearly thought about what we were going to do. We have the grid at the top and then point form underneath, constantly answering the question. So in terms of setting out the response, making sure it's in a well-structured response, which is what they asked for, it's extensive. Valid points are beyond doubt extensive. There's just everything. That grid alone is showing at least detailed band 5, if not extensive by itself. And then we're going further by talking about the unity and contrast. So the combination of both is extensive again. Examples, without doubt, that whole grid is one massive example, and it's not just detailed. Detailed would be sort of saying where the melody is and where the accompaniment is. We've gone way further. We've named the sections are clear. Everything about it is extensive, and then we've even notated just the starts and the melodies. So that's extensive, and I'm being as harsh on myself as I can possibly be. Musical terminology, there's things I missed. Plucked, could have said pizzicato. There were times when I say, oh, this plays the same melody as this, when I could have said it emulates or imitates the melody. I called the recorder a flute. So let's say, like, be really harsh. The truth is, at worst, it would probably sit in detail, but I'm going to be super harsh on myself and say it was only sound. We're still looking at easily band 6, top band 6, 18 out of 20. That's absolute worst case scenario. Okay, so here's a band 5-6 response, meaning it's just right on the borderline. So we want to look at things they could have done to push them into the band 6. There's no point getting band 5, and this person could have easily got band 6 if they had half a brain. So they've listed instruments there. They've divided up violin, viola and cello and double bass. Really foolish. They also called it a flute. And the harpsichord they've called a lute, so they're way off there. Major mistake that they could have improved on was there was no reason to divide up viola from double bass. They were doing the exact same thing. They were one layer. So they should have kept it as one layer. They've also done it a different way, listed the performing media across the top, which isn't wise because when an instrument's added, it throws your whole thing out. How have they named their sections? A, A1, same as us, B, B1. Then they've just gone to A, A2, B2, A3 and A4. Problem here is that so far there's no real justification of why they called them those things. I certainly can't figure out why they did. They've also got little things like plucked, plucked, plucked. They're like same thing as we did. If they'd done pizzicato, it instantly would have started to improve their response. So far, main thing, they should have kept the layers simplified, especially double bass and viola and cello should have all just been one thing. It was absolutely stupid. And the viola didn't choose to play in those sections at all, so actually that whole layer is totally wrong. Alright, theme is repeated, imitated and varied in each new section. Correct. You'll notice that the main thing is still good though. They got 8 sections. They heard 8 clear sections. Contrast is made by use of differing music sources to play the main melody, theme, flute plays melody, then violin. Good. They said the same thing as us. Piece is unified by the ensemble instruments, string ensemble, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't actually really say anything other than sort of, yes, there's a lot of string instruments. They could have worded that a lot better. Like saying the use of string instruments throughout created unity. That's a much better way of saying it. Main melody structure is flowing and sounds very improvised in its structure. Rubbish, that means nothing. Excerpt could be around due to the repetition of the main theme. Wrong. Call and response, that is rubbish. Call and response between violin and strings and lute and flute. Yeah, we can see what they mean there. Dynamic differences between sections, that's a good point to add. Is minimal and controlled. All I had to do there was say that because of the lack of difference, it creates unity. That would have been a magnificent point that we missed. It's a binary piece due to the 2 main sections. If they'd just written binary, they'd be totally wrong, but they have sort of justified what they mean. I still totally disagree with it because it starts and ends in A, so how can it be binary? But because it is a dance tempo and the time signature remains constant, that's it. That's all they say. So that alone, you can see all the problems they had, so many things they could improve on. That's still borderline band 5 and 6, so you can see how much better our response was. So that's that one. If we now have a look at the next example, I won't bother stopping the tape, I'll just find the next one. Okay, another example of band 5-6 response. Okay, here they've done some crucial time wasting things. You'll see this part here. It's no coincidence they've got 8 strokes. What they've done is during the listening, drawn a stroke every time they've heard a different section. Then they've named the sections over here. Unfortunately, an examiner's not going to mark that. The way we did it was clear and said so much more. And they've also tried to name them without having something in front of them to justify it. Whereas you can see there, the way they've named them is quite interesting. They've just said that it goes to a C section instead of back to A, which I disagree with. But